Oh, really? Who do we have?
You two.
Ah,
I didn't see.
right, correct. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
So, for those of you who are online and in the sanctuary, you get extra bonus points. Because not only was there Erev Rosh Hashanah Day 1, Rosh Hashanah Day 2, earlier today, we are back for some more. We are here for Shabbat, which happens to be Shabbat Shuvah, the Sabbath of return. Shabbat Shuvah is the name that's given to the Sabbath that falls between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur every year. Piece of trivia that's totally useless. But the year that I was to become bat mitzvah, the date that was initially assigned, because when you're in a bigger synagogue, you're assigned a date, as opposed to here where I get to work with the families and they with me and we figure out a date that's good for the family. So I was assigned Shabbat Shuvah. But some of my relatives who lived in Florida would not be traveling between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. They were Orthodox, and there would not be enough time for them to fly and get back home in time for Yom Kippur and be prepared. So my date was changed to August 27th. So, yes, so Shabbat Shuvah could have been, but was not. All right, enough about me. Let us begin our service with tonight's song leader, Aviv Naamani. Thank you, Aviv, for being with us. And we're going to start with Hine Matov, reminding ourselves how good and pleasant and wonderful it is when brothers and sisters come together. And if only all of God's children of every race, religion, color, nationality, etc., could really see other human beings as brothers and sisters, think how much more peaceful and pleasant our world would be. Hine Matov.
Hine ma tov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad.
So it's time to light the Shabbat candles. Mark, do you have any desire to light Shabbat candles? Well, come on up. So we're going to continue on page 3. You know, being a egalitarian goes both ways, right? Yep. All right. So here's the mic, and you can read this passage or this passage, whichever you prefer.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light.
Thank you.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Page 9. On the bottom of the page. We offer thanks, O God, for this Shabbat which unites us in faith and hope, for Shabbat holiness which inspires sacred living, for Shabbat memories glowing even in darkness, for Shabbat peace born of friendship and love. We offer thanks and blessing, O God. We're going to continue with Ma Yafeh Hayom, which can be found on page 10.
Ma Yafeh Hayom, Shabbat Shalom. Ma Yafeh Hayom, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
And let's continue on page 12 with Psalm 95. Our Kabbalat Shabbat service, which is the part of the service where we welcome the Sabbath. It's traditional to read some of our Psalms, so we'll start on the bottom of 12 and we'll continue to the top of 13. Come, let us sing joyously to Adonai. Raise a shout for our rock and deliverer. Let us come into God's presence with praise. Let us raise a shout for God in song. For Adonai is a great God, the great ruler of all divine beings. In God's hand are the depths of the earth. The peaks of the mountains are God's. God's is the sea. God made it, and the land which God's hands fashioned. Come, let us bow down and kneel. Bend the knee before Adonai, our Maker. For Adonai is our God, and we are the people God tends, the flock in God's care. Oh, if you would but heed God's charge this day. So when we read this passage, I know that particularly on page 13, there's all this talk about nature, the mountains and the sea and the depths of the earth. And I know that this last line is talking about God when it says, oh, if you would but heed God's charge this day. However, scientists have told us about what's happening to this earth that God gave us and God created and asked us to take care of. This earth that God put us in charge of. And our scientists are telling us that we are taking actions and living in a way that is harming this earth. And there's this rabbinic teaching that tells us that when Adam is in the Garden of Eden, God walks with Adam around the garden and tells him, you see all this that I have created? Take care of it. Do not destroy it. Because if you do, there'll be no one to come after you and fix it. And I know strides are being made with electric cars, and there's more recycling, although there are places where they have recycling garbage bins that we know don't get recycled. There are efforts being made, but we need to heed this charge. God gave us this earth to tend and to be partners with God, and we need to do a better job of protecting this earth, not only for ourselves, but for the generations that will come after us. We're going to continue on page 31. In the middle of the page, let's join together. This is an hour of change. Within it we stand uncertain on the border of light. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? This is the hour of change, and within it we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we draw back my brother, my sister, or cross over. Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim. Even though this is our blessing for creation, this whole idea of this being the hour of change, and we don't know what's coming ahead of us. This is right in line with this new year, that this is the time when we think about change and becoming better people. Not perfect. None of us will ever be perfect, nor does God expect that of us. But are we going to change? And we don't know what lies before us, but are we going to go back? Meaning, are we going to go back to our old ways? Are we going to stay the same? Or are we going to cross over? Are we going to do things differently? Are we going to at least try to cross over and work on those parts of ourselves that can use some improvement? Page 33. Let's continue responsively in the middle of the page. Wisdom and wonder, passion and instruction, story and symbol. And the more we devote ourselves to it, the more it grows and gives.
What could be a truer token of your abiding love?
Than this holiest of your works, and the living language that gives it form. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. We continue on page 34 with the watchword of our faith. I ask those who are able, please rise for Shema Yisrael.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Leolam Va'ed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Please be seated as we continue with the chanting of V'ahavta, page 36. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'eleh Asher Anochi Mitzavecha Hayom Alevavecha Veshinantam Levanecha Vedibarta Bam Veshivtecha Beveitecha Uvlechtecha Vaderech Uveshochbecha Ukumecha Ukshartam leot al yadecha, vehayu letotafot beinenecha, uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha, uvisharecha, leman tizkeru, vasitem et kol mitzvotai, Vitem Kedoshim Elohechem, Ani Adonai Elohechem, Asher Hotzeiti Etchem, Me'eretz Mitzrayim, Leot Lachem Le'Elohim, Ani Adonai Elohechem. Adonai Elohechem Emet. Page 39. Let's join together on the top of the page. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together. And I want to say that this idea of passing through the wilderness can be understood metaphorically in several ways, many ways. I'll just say a few. The turmoil, the anxiety that all of us are feeling because of what's happening in our society. We're in that winding way. We're passing through the wilderness. We don't have our bearings, so to speak. What we knew, what was familiar, just seems so out of sync. What's happening in Israel, Israelis are feeling like they're going in a winding way, that they're passing through the wilderness. What they knew, their lives as they had been for almost 1 year to the day, has been disrupted. They're through the wilderness. But the answer, or what can help, so to speak, and I know that people here are doing this, and I know Israelis have been doing this, is that the way to get from here to there, the way to get through this wilderness, to sustain ourselves, to keep going, is by joining hands, by walking together and continuing forward together. And this was part of my message on Erev Rosh Hashanah, that this is the time when we need each other, we need community, and when we are feeling stressed or anxious and uncertain about what's coming, if we're fearful about anti-Semitism or the election or other things that are happening, like missiles coming from Iran into Israel, that those are times for us to not just sit with our anxiety and our fears, but to reach out to those loved ones, those people in our lives that we trust, and to not just call a friend and talk about all that's great in our lives, but be willing to share, be vulnerable, and say, I'm feeling this, that, or the next thing. And let another person support you and guide you and be with you during those moments. And in turn, we need to be there for our loved ones when they come to us and say, I'm feeling really scared about going to school because of this, right? We know what's happening. We see what's happening on college campuses. We know what's happening even in our schools here. So that idea of joining hands, being together, supporting each other, and putting one foot in front of the other until we make it to a better place. And we all need to hold on to that hope that we will end up in a better place, even though right now we can't see it. We don't know how certain things are going to turn out or end up, but we continue to hope, we continue to pray, and we continue to act in the ways that we can to try to support each other and even to impact some of the causes that are near and dear to our heart. So we think about our ancestors as they crossed the Sea of Reeds when they had been slaves for 400 years, probably had no idea, no thought that life would ever change, and it did. And so we remind ourselves of keeping hope alive as we tonight sing together, Mi Chamocha.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha ne'edar ba'kodesh, nora tehilot osefele. Malchutecha ra'uvanecha, bokeh yam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam, ze'eli anu ve'amru, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed.
V'ne'emar ki fada Adonai et Yaakov, u'ge'alo miyad chazak mimenu. Baruch atah Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael. Page 42. Let's join together in the middle of the page. Grant, O God, that we lie down in peace, and raise us up our guardian to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Guide us with your good counsel. For your name's sake, be our help. Shield and shelter us beneath the shadow of your wings. Defend us against enemies, illness, war, famine, and sorrow. Distance us from wrongdoing. For you, God, watch over us and deliver us. For you, God, are gracious and merciful. Guard our going and coming to life and to peace evermore. Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people, Israel, and over Jerusalem. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu, v'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. We continue on page 44 with the singing of Vishamru.
Veshamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael od hi leolam, od hi leolam. Veshamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et ha-shamayim ve'et ha'aretz. Veshamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Uvayom hashvi'i shavat vayinafash, shavat vayinafash, shavat vayinafash. Veshamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Veshamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam.
So now we are going to continue with the Amidah. We are going to be chanting only on the even-numbered pages. Please note that when we get to the Avot ve'Imahot, and which is on 48, when we get to the Giverot on page 50, and when we are on page 52 for the Kiddushah, each of them has an insert for the High Holy Days. And we are going to chant those as well, similar to the way we do on the High Holy Days. Why? Because we are still in the 10 days of awe. We still ask God to watch over us, to give us a good year, to write us in the book of life. So I invite everyone who is able to please rise, page 46. And remember, 48, 50, and 52 have some changes. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi agita hilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, טובים וקונה הכל וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם למען שמו באהבה זוכרנו לחיים מלך חפץ בחיים וכותבנו בספר החיים למענך אלוהים חיים מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני בחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע מוריד הטל מכלכל חיים בחסד מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים סומך נופלים ורופא חולים ומתיר אסורים ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומידו מלך מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה מי כמוך אף הרחמים זוכר יצוריו לחיים ברחמים ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה ברוך אתה אדוני המלך הקדוש. Please be seated. He did it, Aviv.
Yeah.
Page 57. Let's join together on the bottom of the page. You are with us in our prayer, our love, and our doubt, in our longing to feel your presence and do your will. You are the still, clear voice within us. Therefore, O God, when doubt troubles us, when anxiety makes us tremble, when pain clouds the mind, we look inward for the answer to our prayers. There may we find you, and there find courage, insight, and endurance. And let our worship bring us closer to one another, that all Israel and all who seek you may find new strength for your service. Baruch atah Adonai, she'odcha levarcha b'yirah na'avod. So on this next page, which is the Hoda'ah, page 58, our prayer of thanksgiving, please note when we get to the bottom, we are tonight going to read the additional line for Shabbat Shuvah. Let's join together. We acknowledge with thanks that you are Adonai, our God and the God of our ancestors forever. You are the rock of our lives and the shield of our salvation in every generation. Let us thank you and praise you for our lives which are in your hand, for our souls which are in your care, for your miracles that we experience every day, and for your wondrous deeds and favors at every time of day, evening, morning, and noon. O good one, whose mercies never end. O compassionate one, whose kindness never fails. We forever put our hope in you. For all these things, O sovereign, let your name be forever praised and blessed. Inscribe all the children of your covenant for a good life. O God, our Redeemer and Helper, let all who live affirm you and praise your name in truth. Blessed are you, Adonai. Your name is goodness, and you are worthy of thanksgiving. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha ulacha na'eh lehodot. So on the next page, we are going to sing Shalom Rav, our prayer for peace, and then we will go back and read our Shabbat Shuvah inserts.
Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim leolam. V'tov ve'einecha levarech et amcha Yisrael b'chol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim leolam. Tasim leolam. Tasim leolam.
And now let us read in Hebrew in the small print in the middle of the page and then towards the bottom of the page as well. Besefer Chaim, Beracha v'Shalom, Ufarnasa Tova, V'nizacher v'nikatev lefanecha, Anachnu v'chol Amcha Beit Yisrael, L'chaim tovim u'l'shalom. Baruch atah Adonai, Oseh HaShalom. In the book of life, blessing, peace, and prosperity, may we be remembered and inscribed by you, we and all your people, Israel, for a good life and for peace. Blessed are you, Adonai, who makes peace. At this time, we call to mind our loved ones who are in need of prayers of healing, healing of body, mind, or spirit. Our prayers are with Gerald Barron, Adam Carrico, Bobby Jackowitz, Wes Gersh, Chassia Haberman, Diane Levine, David Rosenberg, Fran Skall, Paul Tackett, Bogi Terzieva, the men and women of the U.S. Armed Forces, the men and women of the IDF, the hostages who have been held in Gaza for 362 days, the Israelis who continue to be displaced from their homes and continue to live with daily missile and rocket attacks from multiple fronts, the innocent Palestinians and Lebanese who are suffering because of the war that was started by Hamas on October 7th. Please add the names of your loved ones at this time.
Left Ickerman, David Shapiro, Richard Thurman.
We ask that God bring healing to our loved ones as we join together in our prayer for healing, which can be found in the middle of page 253.
Mi sheberach avotenu bekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, a renewal of body, a renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
We continue silently with Tefillat Halev, the prayers of our own heart.
Ose shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen. Ose shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen. Ose shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen. Ose shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen.
Okay, so tonight it is Ask the Rabbi. So, who, if anyone, has a question for me?
You want me to repeat the one I had?
Sure, Aviv.
I asked a rabbi before service because there was something that a lot of people don't know. There is a very strict regimen for the way you inscribe a Torah, the way you write the letters. And sometimes you have the letters stretched out to the point where you have to do a double take when you're reading it. And I encountered this yesterday. And it occurred to me last night, I'm wondering if all Torahs have the same letters stretched out so that they fill out each column. And I asked the rabbi, and I'm going to let her answer you the way she answered me.
Yes, that was a really good question. So as we know, with the exception of two places in the Torah is written in columns. Well, I guess in the other places where it's more like a poem, there still are columns, but it's more like a poem. Well, anyway, so the idea, and the more experienced a sofer, a scribe is, perhaps the less of these they will have. So what happens is, when you're writing a Torah, you want to end your letter so it's exactly in line. So sometimes, and only certain letters can be elongated. So as you're writing, you need to also be planning. So let's say the last word of that line is Yisrael, Israel. The lamed can be elongated, right? So that word, because you don't have enough space for a whole nother word, but you can't just leave a big gap, right? So you elongate a letter at the end of the line so that it is even. Now, I have seen Torahs, and when you're a scribe, it's an apprentice type of position, and you need to work with somebody. And so I have seen a Torah scroll where sometimes the letter, it actually goes over, right? It's really not totally lined up. It's over a bit. And that's a sign that the person who wrote that Torah was not as experienced, because you have to try to plan and figure out where you're going to end. And, can you add an extra word? Maybe perhaps he should have had less words, but the answer to Aviv's question is no, because everyone's handwriting is different. Some people write bigger, some people write smaller, the same as in English or in any other language. So yes, you will find in every Torah letters at the end elongated, like a resh, right? That's really easy to elongate. Or a hey, you can elongate, for example. But you're not going to find the same words elongated at the end of the Torah. And sometimes a word that ends, maybe this line ends with Yisrael, and maybe in a different Torah, it ends with B'nai, and Yisrael is here, right? But the children of Israel, B'nai Yisrael, because this person wrote, with the way they wrote it, they fit Yisrael, but in the other person, Yisrael went to the next line. So the answer is no. But what we do know is the words will be the same, but again, everyone's handwriting is different. Just like if we gave each of us a piece of paper and we gave each other a paragraph, even if we all printed, we would not have every word be the same at the end. So that's the answer. Good question. Okay. Well, you're not, okay, so Mark, if you look on page, good question, 34, 35, the Shema. So the Shema, so the first word is Shema, the first three letters, and the third letter is the ayin, and that letter is bigger. Shin, mem, ayin is bigger, and if you look at the end, the last letter on page 35, that also is big, right? It is a dalid, okay? And the ayin and the dalid, when you put an ayin and a dalid together, it means aid or witness. In other words, like we are witnesses to the idea that there is only one God. Also, they said that that you want the dalid bigger, and that because you don't want someone to think it says, "Hear, O Israel, Adonai is our God, Adonai," instead of the dalid, a resh, which are two letters that are often, they look very similar, meaning that instead of one, it means other, right? That like God is like another God, right? So the dalid is bigger for that reason too, because we want to make sure it says one and not other. Okay? Did I see another hand up? Okay, Linda.
How do you know how do you choose which Torah to get out of the?
We take the one that's the lightest. Well, actually, that's not exactly accurate. Normally you take the Torah that's the lightest, because it's also the easiest when you lift it up after you read the Torah, right? Or if somebody's processing around, it's easier. However, our lightest Torah, even though it's not the shortest, it's our Holocaust Torah. It looks like it's heavy because it's much longer, but in fact it's much lighter. However, it's no longer kosher, and so we don't use it very much anymore, and we have had a scribe look at it. And sometimes the Torah gets to the point where either the cost of repairing it is even more than if you wrote a new Torah, but out of respect, we keep it in the ark. Now, there are others who believe, and this is kind of a debate, so to speak, among clergy. What do you do with a Torah that's no longer kosher? That's pasul, right? Pasul means not kosher. It's not correct. So traditionally, we bury them, and Rich was there because he helped with his son-in-law Harrison and also Ellen Gray. If you read our weekly TS News you can use, you would see and know that we took prayer books and we had some taluses and kippot that were no longer in a state of disrepair, and they were buried. We did have some prayer books, Gates of Prayer, that were not in a state of disrepair. We don't use them. There's way too many out there. No one wants them. Even if you give them away and say, just pay the shipping, they're just So we bury them. So a Torah as well should be buried. So there are some who feel like, look, if the Torah is in a state of disrepair, you should bury it. And I could tell you, when I was in Wheeling, we had many Torahs because several congregations had merged over the years, and there were some that were totally pasul, but those congregations weren't ready to bury them because they felt like, but there are Torahs, we kept them properly, but not in the main ark, but we did have a place where they were kept properly. But and personally, I would have been fine burying those, but again, I don't have the historical connection. But with a Holocaust Torah, some congregations have them out, right, in some kind of like plexiglass display so people see them and there's a plaque underneath. And some people say, look, we need to remember the Holocaust and this Torah survived, and we use it. We feel it's showing honor, deference, and it's a teachable moment, right? A tool. And it reminds us, and it teaches the future generations. And others say that's really disrespectful. It should be buried. So there's a debate. So ours is in the ark, but we really don't use it because it's not kosher. Well, so you should have your Torahs checked a minimum of every 7 years. And we had a scribe, since I've been here, we've brought a scribe here. And I know, Rich, you had your hand up, so I'll get to you. Sometimes the ink on the letters starts to come to lift off. So many synagogues that were built when this one was built and even sooner the ark is on an exterior wall, and that is the worst thing that you can do because it's susceptible to the heat and the cold. And that can have an impact on the parchment, and it can have an impact on the ink. Now, when I say ink, it's not ink that you use. The ink is made from insects and plants, right? But it can start to wear off. So that's something that, for example, that the letters start to come, and sometimes they can be fixed. And sometimes, they're just so faded that, the cost is, like we had one tour, I think it was gonna cost over $20,000 just to repair that one. Because there's an excess these days. Yeah, Rich.
Also, some of the Holocaust scrolls have been sent back to the congregations in the cities that have been reformed in those cities. We know where ours came from, Friedrich Mystic. And so that if that town ever has a congregation again, if we were to bury it, they wouldn't be able to send it back to them. Now, my question for you is one that we couldn't figure out the answer to the other day when we were having lunch, is what did people wear instead of leather before we had sneakers?
Okay, so that, and then from that, okay. So, and that ties in with a question. I got a question from Lisa Graves, and I think Lisa and Kelly are watching, so Shabbat Shalom. So let me kind of explain where that comes from. So Lisa had sent me a question earlier, and she part of the question was about what does it mean when it says like that we should, she said afflict ourselves or practice self-denial, right? Like to practice self-denial on Yom Kippur. And so there are several things that traditionally we don't do, right? Because it's a day when we don't focus on our bodies, on our appearance. It's more a day to focus inward on our souls. So for example, people don't bathe. Some Orthodox people today, they don't brush their teeth. People don't wear cologne or perfume. People don't wear makeup, right? It's a way of adorning yourselves, right? We don't adorn ourselves. And people traditionally do not wear leather shoes, which is why sometimes you see people in like canvas sneakers or something like that, right? Or something like Mark's UFOs that are not leather. However, if you were pregnant, you could wear leather shoes. So I texted one of my colleagues who's extremely wise, and he said, you know, that's a good question. And so he said, I don't really know, because back then, I don't really know, other than leather, what you wore, and I didn't have the time to research, but Mark has an idea, which I'm sure is interesting.
Well, you know they discovered that guy up in the Alps there that's as old as the pyramids, Otzi they call him. He happened to be wearing corded sandals made out of vegetable fiber. So maybe they did the same thing.
Vegetable fiber shoes, interesting. You know, if you open that business, I bet you a lot of the environmentalists, too many, we don't want to spread your secret, your idea, you should patent that quick. Yeah, so we're not to, you know, it's really a day to and of course, not eating, not drinking, right? It's a day of practicing self-denial. But Rich, I have to keep looking into that question because I thought the one person I was going to ask was going to have this great answer, and didn't.
So, for those who have health problems and everything, and when it comes to fasting, especially for Yom Kippur, we're told we're not supposed to. Why is it an affront to God if we were to fast?
Good question. So this is the answer. Because of all our commandments, all our mitzvot, right, pikuach nefesh, saving a life, is the most important. And so if we have a health condition or any condition, right, even being pregnant, right, that we need to eat, or someone takes medication and they need to take it with food, or they get low blood sugar and they can't fast, okay? Then if we fast when our body needs us not to fast, we're actually causing harm to our bodies. And that's not what God wants. And one of the readings that we did on Friday night talked about, no, it was Wednesday night, talked about the need to care for our bodies and the responsibility we have for caring for our bodies. And in fact, Judaism teaches that our bodies are a gift from God, and we are actually borrowing our bodies while we are here. Our bodies belong to God, and that we have a responsibility to take care of them. So if your body, I'm not saying you, but if a body needs to consume food or liquid or whatever they need to be healthy, and you deny that to yourself, then in fact you're causing harm to yourself, and that is not what you are to do. You need to take care of your body. And if you need to not fast, you could potentially, for some people, depending on the circumstances, if it's a severe enough condition and they fast when they shouldn't, they could be potentially even risking their lives. And that's verboten. That is forbidden. That is not okay. Does that make sense? Now, another part of the question that Lisa talked about, she said, in the Bible, as far as I can remember, Yom Kippur is a day when we afflict ourselves, and I would say, practice self-denial. But she said that we do no work, right? Shabbat Shabbaton, the Sabbath of Sabbaths, and our sins as a community are put on a goat, which is then released into the desert. All this takes place on one day. So now we ask each other for forgiveness, make amends, and do cheshbon hanefesh, an accounting of our souls, for 10 days. 30 if one is Sephardic. And I think she's talking about slichot. Then almost every prayer service is about begging God for forgiveness and hoping to be included in the book of life. I don't understand this. How did one day of direct instructions get turned into a fear-based 10 days of begging for forgiveness? So I guess I want to say a few things. So the idea of slichot, slicha means forgiveness, pardon. So among the Sephardim, They get up early in the morning for 30 days, and they offer the slichot prayers early every morning. And I had spoke a few weeks ago about when I was in Israel that year when I was a rabbinic student, and it was the height of the Second Intifada, and there were so many bombs and whatnot. And we were getting up early one morning to go to a synagogue, and there had been an explosion, and we didn't get to go because I wanted to witness that. So for 30 days, yes, for the whole month of Elul, every morning they get up and they offer the prayers of slichot. For us, Ashkenazim, right, we do it on the Saturday before Rosh Hashanah, and we have that one evening when it's called slichot, and then after that, each day you offer your prayers of slichot. So that's a little bit different tradition. But also, though, so that's one part of her text. Getting back to the part with the goat, okay? And Lisa, you're right about the cheshbon hanefesh and asking for forgiveness. And so this took place in one day, so how come now it's drawn out? First of all, what's in the Torah, which I'll talk about in the morning, is Torah-itic Judaism. But the Judaism that we all live today and practice is really rabbinic Judaism, right? It's the interpretation of the Torah by the rabbis over many decades and centuries that we actually practice today. So, for example, nowhere in the Torah does it say light Shabbat candles. Nowhere in the Torah does it say light the Hanukkah menorah for 8 days. Nowhere in the Torah does it say wear a kippah, right? So, I mean, it does say hear the sound of the blast of the horn on the first day of the 7th month, which is Tishrei, right? But a lot of what we do comes from the interpretation of the rabbi. Look, the Torah says, do not boil a kid in its mother's milk. That's what it says. From that came the idea of kashrut, right? That you don't mix milk and meat. And then from there it became, well, 2 sets of dishes, and then how many hours you wait between one and the other. But again, that comes from the rabbis. And in Judaism we say, yesh shtei Torot, there are 2 Torahs. There's the written law, which is the Torah, and there is the rabbinic law, which is from the rabbi, the oral law, the written and the oral. And the oral is from the rabbis. That's the Mishnah, the Tosefta, the Talmud, and the what? Midrash, right. But as far as like the volumes, yes, there's, correct, you're right. And then when we come to the Talmud, there's the Babylonian Talmud, and then there's the Jerusalem Talmud, right? And then there's all kinds of responsum, right, where there's different questions were asked, and depending on where you lived and who your rabbi was, you have different answers. So we live Judaism. We don't follow we don't stone rebellious children, okay? Like it tells us to do that. We don't do that, okay? And there are other things in here that we don't do. However, just to talk about what she was talking about, so in Leviticus, we read about Aaron, and he's told to take 2 he-goats, male goats. And one, he makes a burnt offering to make expiation on behalf of the Israelites. And the other one, he puts his hand on this goat and like transferring like all the sins and the transgressions of the people onto this goat. And then someone is assigned to take this goat, and the goat goes out into the wilderness, Azazel, and then the goat goes away and kind of like symbolically carries our sins with it. That's what she was talking about, okay? But I don't know anybody who does that practice today, although you can still find the people, right, swinging the chickens, right, the kaparot, right, and they think that by killing the chickens, that kind of takes away our sins. Again, you're not going to find much of that in Louisville. If you go to Crown Heights, you'll see a lot of that going on. But the answer is that when the rabbis interpreted the Torah, okay, we they interpreted the Torah, and some things were very clear, and other things were not so directly clear. But what we live today is based on the Torah. And it does say in the Torah, on the first day of the 7th month, that you should not do your work, that there should be the blast of the horn. It does tell us on the 10th day of the 7th month, you shall practice self-denial. Okay, you should not work. It's a Shabbat Shabbaton. It tells us on the 15th day of the 7th month, okay, about taking up the fruits of the Hadar tree, which we understand is the etrog, right, and explains about the lulav. It doesn't say shake it and say these blessings that come from the rabbi, but yes, it does say live in booths, so you'll remember that you lived in booths when I took you out of the land of Egypt. So there's a lot that we do, right? But there's also, most of what we do comes from, nobody says, like, go sit in synagogue, have services for, like, all day long. Like, that developed through the years, okay? And we don't sacrifice animals anymore. The Torah is full of that. We don't. So again, there's the Judaism of the Torah and the Judaism of the rabbis, and we blend them together, and that's what we live, Rabbinic Judaism. Any other questions? All right, Mark has a question.
Let me see if I'm remembering this correctly. I was talking with Katerina earlier about if we were going to have a minyan, and I said, I don't know where that idea of a minyan comes from, but I think I do. I think when I was researching for Devar Torah, that I think it comes from when Moses sent the spies out to check Canaan, and 10 came back and said it was not a good place. But I think the rabbis were impressed that 10 Jews had the same notion.
So I did not hear that one. That could be a midrash. And midrash is our L-O-R-E versus our L-A-W, our law, right, which is our halakha. And then we have and that's a great midrash. I love that. What I was taught, it comes from when Abraham knows that God is going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. And God starts pleading, what if there's 50? What if there's 40, right? And it gets down to 10. And says, if there are 10 righteous people, will you spare the city for their sake? And God says yes. And so from those 10, it was understood that you need a minyan in order to recite certain prayers. However, what you said, it also was great. 10 people, 10 Jews agreed. I mean, the joke where, 2 people are shipwrecked on an island and finally they're saved and they see these 3 buildings and they say, what are these buildings? Well, what is this? And they say, oh, this is the synagogue he goes, this is the synagogue I go to, this is the synagogue he goes to, and this is the synagogue I would never be caught dead in, right? So, so that's a, that's a nice explanation too. Although there was a punishment though, right, for those 10, because of that they didn't get to go to, right, they had to be in the desert and only Caleb and Joshua. So the more I think about it, it kind of sounds nice, but probably not, because, yeah.
Caleb and Pinchas, wasn't it?
Caleb and,
Was it Caleb and Pinchas that were the ones that came back?
no, Joshua, Caleb
It
and
was
Joshua.
Joshua,
Yeah.
okay.
All right. Well, I hope people feel like their questions were answered. And Lisa, I hope I answered your question. If not, be in touch. You know how to find me. Oh, thank you. Lisa said it was a good explanation, and glad you are watching. Shabbat Shalom. All right, couple of announcements. So, as I think most people here know, we have a lot going on between now and Simchat Torah. So please RSVP to the events that you would like to attend, because we want to make sure we have enough food, because, if Jews run out of food, that is not good, right? So, Speaking of food, we have our JFCS food drive. If you have not yet had an opportunity to grab one of the bags, please do, because it lists specifically what the needs are. And as you've heard throughout the weekend, I keep saying weekend, I feel like Shabbat's on the right through the Rosh Hashanah. The food pantry at JFCS is giving out 7,000 pounds of food a month, which is a huge amount, which is showing the need. Also, this Sunday at 4 o'clock, there is a community-wide gathering to commemorate October 7th at the JCC, and an Israeli singer will be performing, as well as other people reading poetry and speaking. So that's 4 o'clock at the JCC. Also, if you can donate your time at bingo on a Monday night, it would be greatly appreciated. And I just want to thank again Mark for all he did to really help pull the High Holy Days together, and everybody who had a part in this service. And David, thank you also for stepping up, especially on Wednesday night when we were in need, so thank you so much. Aviv, thanks for helping with music tonight. Rich, thank you for streaming. So, without a further ado, we will continue in the middle of page 282 with Aleinu L'Shabeach, and please rise as I open the ark.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'Adon hakol, l'atei gedula liotzer b'reshit, shelo asanu kigoyei haratzot, velo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu ka'em, v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. 284. שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסר הארץ ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל ושכינתו זו ושכינתו זו בגובי מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד.
287.
ונאמר היה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד ושמו אחד.
Please be seated. We call to mind our loved ones who live on within us, who are no longer physically present. If you're here to recite Kaddish for a loved one, you're invited to rise when their name is read aloud. This evening, we remember Ruth Aronoff, Norman Band, Morris Gertzman, Barbara Grossman, Leopold Isler, Morris L. Jacobs, Dr. Samuel L. Carr, Nellie S. Kratzik, Helen Swinton. We're in a period of Shloshim, the first 7 days of mourning, for Alvin Kassan, Davida Levine, and Rabbi Carla Friedman. We're in a period of Shuvah, the first 7 days of mourning for Jay Tyson, the father-in-law of Maggie Lassiter, the brother-in-law of Maggie Lassiter. And we mourn the loss of the Israeli soldiers killed in Lebanon. Zichronam Livracha, may their memories be for a blessing, and may they rest in peace as we rise together as a congregation, praising God's holy name with the mourners' Kaddish. Page 294. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, be'alma divarach yerutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayeichon u'vyomeichon u'v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'bizman kari v'yimeru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevarach le'olam u'lomei olmaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei tukudasha barichu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran bi'alma v'yimeru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimeru amen. Oseh shalom v'romav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimeru amen. May the source of peace and peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved, and let us say together, Amen. So I have a question for you, and whoever answers first, either via text or here live in person, will get a Baskin-Robbins gift card. So, this is the question. In which language is the Kaddish written? I saw two hands.
I'll give him the ice cream.
I heard the
I
ooh.
just want to answer. I'll give
Okay.
him the ice cream. Aramaic.
Aramaic. Aramaic.
I don't care I don't want the ice cream. I just want.
That's what you told her? Oh, you said it too? All right, we got three. We get three.
No,
We'll
I
give-
don't want the ice cream. So it goes to them. I just wanted to answer the question. Did you notice I did the car 54? Ooh, ooh, ooh. That was aimed at you.
Lisa said Aramaic too. All right. Ice cream for you too, Lisa, next time I see you. All right, here we go. So our concluding song, an oldie but a goodie, straight from Louisville, Kentucky, Temple Shalom Sanctuary, Bim Bam.
Bim, bam, bim, 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 bam. Bim, 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 bam. Bim, bam, bim, 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 bam. Bim, 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 bam. Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shalom. Bim, bam, bim, 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 bam. Bim, 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 bam. Bim, bam, bim, 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 bam. Bim, 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 bam.
Turn to someone near you. Wish them Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. What? Yes, we have Kiddush, Motzi, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom to everybody out there. Okay. Okay. Does he get the hole in one?
No, it's not.
Okay.
Everybody knows that.
Okay.